How you doing, guys? I wanted to do a video today on some SEO basics, and in this case cover some of the top 8 or 9 things that play into how a site ranks online. Before you can really get into what should we be doing and how do we do all of that, you need to just get a big picture understanding of, in general, what search engines look at when they look at websites and how they kind of make those decisions about which of the top sites are we going to list. And first you need to understand that for anybody to appear on the front page for any given search, that's basically the search engine's way of saying, here are what we consider to be authorities on this topic or the best answers to that question. So let's get into the top 9 things that really play into that. There are more little tidbits, but these are the biggest things. One would be the amount of overall content you have on your site about a given topic. So if you're a bakery and one of your things that you want to rank for is chocolate cupcakes, then how much content is there throughout the whole website that talks about cupcakes in general and chocolate in particular? If you barely mention it, search engines are not going to see you as an authority on that topic, obviously, because you barely showcase what you can do. But even if you have a fair amount of content overall on the site about that, it also looks at, on a page per page basis, how long is the content that talks about that. There's a big difference between I have 2 paragraphs that briefly mention cupcakes, or I've written full articles on how to bake cupcakes, what goes into the best cupcakes, histories of cupcakes, etc. It helps kind of win authority points on that topic. Number 3 would be optimization of your titles and your content. So how clearly written are the titles and your content to make it obvious on a page per page basis that that's what it's about. So if you're just talking about baked goods on a certain page, it's not necessarily going to really push forward the authority on cupcakes, because baked good could mean a lot of things. So look at some of my other videos and posts on tips for optimizing titles and whatnot for more information there, but suffice it to say, that matters. And a lot of times you can go into a site that's poorly optimized in that regard and just do a better job of making those titles clearer and more related to keywords you want to rank for, and then do that a bit through the content, and that in itself can make a pretty noticeable difference. Number 4 would be internal link reinforcement. And what that means is, how do the internal pages of your site relate to each other in a way that both shows hierarchy and shows a general understanding of a topic. So you might have a baked good page, and then at one point in that page it links to a page about cupcakes, and then that page also links to other pages you have about chocolate and strawberry cupcakes. So now search engines looking at kind of the hierarchy of your site say, so they talk about baked goods, but they also have knowledge of cupcakes. Then they get specific into types of cupcakes, methodology of baking the cupcakes, etc. And with all those pages interlinked to each other, it shows a relationship between topics. And also, if bottom level pages link upward, it really kind of shows search engines that that's the page in some cases that they should be paying attention to. Maybe you have just a cupcakes page and a whole bunch of different pages throughout the site refer back to that page. That's a cue to Google and other search engines. When we talk about cupcakes, this is the de facto, page, the authoritative page on the idea of cupcakes for this site. And then it can also just boost the authority for that topic on your site in general. So good to kind of set that up in advance when you're building your site. 5 would be backlinks, and this is not just how many other sites link to you in some way or another, but the way that they link to you and how authoritative those sites are. So for instance, a small blogger's blog that doesn't get a lot of traffic, it helps to have people like that link to you, but it doesn't help as much as if CNN or some other very large website linked to you. That would carry a lot more authority for search engines, because obviously that's considered a very reputable source, and if somebody of that reputation is referring you when they talk about a topic of all the other people they could have linked to, it's a big indicator to search engines that you are the authority on that topic. But also, how many times are you linked to? If, say, a website links to you repeatedly, they've written a couple different articles, and in each one of those articles on that topic they've always linked to you, it's sort of a law of diminishing returns. It helped a certain amount the first time they linked to you, and then the second time, and then the third time. It matters less and less that the same site keeps linking to you. It's better to have diversity. It's better to have a whole bunch of sites linking to you than one or two that link to you a dozen times, if that makes sense. And it also matters, are they linking to just your base URL, your homepage of your site, or are they doing what they call deep linking your content? So say you wrote an article very specifically about baking tips for chocolate cupcakes, and they linked to that. That's more meaningful for improving your authority on chocolate cupcakes than them just saying, for tips on cupcakes, visit your website, and then it's just your base URL. That's just a very generalized referral. It's more powerful if they link very specifically to some piece of content on your site. 6 would be social sharing, and that's more of a recent thing that Google and other search engines have put in place, and it makes sense why they did it. The thinking is, the more times people are sharing your content, linking it, liking it, talking about it, it's probably an indicator that the content is useful, because a lot of people are talking about it. If the content were not useful, it would probably not be getting many shares, and it wouldn't be being talked about. So that can play a role in it for sure, and it's one of the reasons when you blog it's important to be on some social channel, even if you're not on them all, to not only just as a way surely to get your content out to more people, but a way to get people talking about your content, because that matters to search engines as well, as another indicator of authority on that topic. So number 7 would be domain age. How long has your domain even been around? There's a lot of new sites springing up all the time, and Google and other search engines are not going to automatically trust a website, no matter how well optimized it is, if it's 2 weeks old, just because there's so many spammy sites out there, etc., that they don't want to rank a brand new site over long-standing ones with an established reputation, just in case you're not legit. So it's important to note when you launch a new website to have expectations, and that's part of why SEO people often say when you're launching a new site it can take several months to really get the ranking impact you want. It's not just because there's a lot of work to be done after launch to continue building that momentum, but sometimes if for no other reason, regardless of how well optimized the site is, you just haven't been around long enough to really build up a track record with Google, and it just doesn't trust your site as much yet. Often you find after you've been around for about 6 months or a year, your rankings will go up for keywords. Regardless of the other work that you've been doing to push them, you've shown search engines you're for real and that you really are a player in that industry, and then they start trusting you more and you can rank. Now that's not to say that it's impossible to rank really well as a brand new site, it's just that's a hurdle working against you in the beginning that fades with time. So 2 sites, all things being equal otherwise, a site that's been around for 10 years will have a much easier time ranking for a topic than a site that's only been around for 3 months. That's a strong indicator, that you are an authority in this industry. It's not that we don't like this brand new site, it's just we haven't made up our mind about it yet, kind of thing. So, number 8 would be site traffic and your bounce rate. In the same way that you could look at how many people are talking about you, how many people are sharing your content, it also makes a difference how many people are even coming to your site at all. And once they're there, do they continue to click through pages on your site, or do they leave right away? That's another indicator to search engines of how useful your content is. Think about it like this. If I landed on your site and then I clicked through 4 or 5 other pages, that sends a cue to search engines. Wow, Brian must really think this site is interesting because he keeps reading on and on pages about it. If I came to your site, was there for 5 or 10 seconds and left, that sends the opposite impression to search engines. Brian came here looking for an answer. It seems that he didn't find it, and so he left. So this content must not have been all that interesting or useful, and it can ding against that site if that's happening. And that's one of the reasons it's important to use analytics to look at your traffic on your site so that you can see that. Are there certain pages in particular that are having a problem with bounce rate? Then you can dial those in. But at least if that person was on the site for a good few minutes, that's a better indicator to search engines. The content was useful. The bounce isn't as negative in that case. But you definitely want to look out for when people come and leave very quickly. And site traffic, period, you'll notice kind of an upward spiral once you start getting some momentum on your rankings, because the better you rank, the more traffic you're going to get. The more traffic you get, the better you're going to rank to get even more traffic, and then they feed each other, and it just goes up and up from there. And you will find that once you're into a powerful SEO campaign, that often becomes the case. And lastly, and certainly most importantly in a way these days, is your site mobile friendly? This was a big thing a couple years ago. I'm not going to harp on it a whole lot because you've probably heard it a million times when they were talking about the importance of the site being mobile friendly for different devices, but that does actually play a role in how well your site can rank. And Google has even started showing separate lists or variants of search results depending on device. So your site might rank really well for PC users, but it might not rank as well for phone users if your site is not mobile friendly. So it's definitely worthwhile to make sure you're dialed in there both ways, and of course it matters for the experience the user has once they're on your site. So hopefully this was useful as you're planning your overall web marketing efforts to get a general idea of the kinds of things you should be paying attention to on your site and the kinds of things that search engines are looking at when they look at your site, so that if you're not getting the results that you're hoping for, you can address some of these areas and really start asking questions about what am I doing in these areas to really establish my authority on this topic. I'm Brian, and I thank you for watching. And if this video is useful to you, please go ahead and like and share it, or subscribe to the channel where I'll be talking more about these kind of tips going forward. Have a good day, guys.